Footballers Anonymous, rolling into week 7. We just wrapped up week 6. I'm your host, Trey Seitz.
And I'm Rob Matter.
And we're going to get the show started. All right, week 6 recap. We have Lucci's winners and Jay Knights. This is our first tie in league history, 98-98.
Yes, and Jay Knights has finally not lost all of his games, but he hasn't won any yet either, so I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, it is. It is worth a round of applause.
Everybody, please.
That's right. All right, next game this week, we had Three Sharks in the Water against Supermom. Three Sharks is still unbeaten. They're 6-0.
You know, I wasn't expecting Kristen to really beat him. I was expecting her to get close. You know, she did a lot better than I thought she would. I was even hoping that Reggie Wayne would possibly have a blow-up game. I mean, he needed, I think it was like 20-some points to beat him. I think it was 23.
Right.
But at the same time, as much as I wanted her to do that, I needed Trent Richardson to do good. So you can't have both him and Trent doing, 23, 24-point games. All right, the next game we're bringing up in the recap is Flea Flickers and Victor's Wildcats, 83-90. I thought this was a close game. You know, they were both projected very close when it started. Then one of them took the lead in Sunday with the projection scale, and then they got really close again, and it came down to 83-90.
All right, and for the game that I thought was going to finally decide who is in second place in the playoffs here, we have Steelers Wheel against Masters Disaster. So Steelers Wheel won 81-68. Sorry to hand you another loss. That's your third straight, isn't it?
That is my third straight, and I really, as much as I had, 2 people got me 14, a guy, RG3 got me 12, nobody showed up for me. It was sad, and I can't even go to my bench and complain about, why didn't I play that guy? Because those people did terrible also.
Yeah, I saw that too.
All right, this week, folks, we're introducing a new segment where we talk about the bad
and the good
of each players that were highlighted last week. All right, so first we're going to discuss Ray Rice. Ray Rice, I think he's going to take the lead early in the game, and he's going to run all over the defense the rest of the game.
Yeah, but right now he's 32nd in fantasy points. He only has 2 double-digit games. The other one were 1, 0, 1, and 4. I know one of those games he was hurt, but I don't know. I don't know if he's quite lived up to expectations this year.
I think against the Pittsburgh defense, their rival, they play twice a year. Last year when they played, Ben Roethlisberger wasn't there. I just think the Ravens know what they're doing against this weak defense.
Yeah, I agree with that. The defense finally did step up last week. They had a decent week, but history has shown that Ray Rice has run all over us. Being a Steelers fan, I know that too well.
And the results for Ray Rice?
I still gotta say bad. Okay, Brandon Marshall on Three Sharks in the Water. This is a guy I drafted this year. He was on the board late. I picked him up. I really didn't want to, but I couldn't just let him sit there. And then I panicked and I thought, oh God, nothing's gonna go right. And then he's going to be worthless. So I traded him for Pierre Garçon. And Brandon Marshall, he's having a good year. He's ranked 4th in fantasy points, which is right where they said he was going to be. He had 20 points last week. He's projected for another 14 this week. And half of his games this year, 3 out of 6, are over 15 points. So he's had a good year.
I'm thinking Brandon Marshall, Cutler's BFF, is going to get shut down all the way this week. I think they're going to cover him. They're going to do a good job covering him, and they're going to shut him down.
I think with Alshon Jeffrey stepping up this year, he has that double threat now. Jay Cutler does. I think it opens things up for Brandon Marshall. I think it opens things up for for Jay Cutler along with Marcellus Bennett. So I have to agree with you. Or I'm sorry, I don't agree with you this week. But in the long run, I think he's going to have a really good season.
And the results for Brandon Marshall? Bad.
I think it's good. Still think it's good.
We'll see. All right, now we're going to talk about Jason Witten. I think his high-scoring game is going to be this week. Romo is going to lean on him a lot against this Eagles defense that knows the offense that Tony Romo has.
I somewhat agree with you, but the Eagles this year haven't been good on defense, but they have been pretty good against tight ends. The Eagles have 2 games where the tight end has scored 9 points or more, and the rest are 5 and under. So it's kind of hard to say that he's going to have a good week, but Romo to Witten is usually a pretty good matchup against the Eagles.
You know, I see exactly where you're coming from. I just think this is going to be one of his top games of the season. I think Romo is going to rely on Witten and his ability to go up and grab the ball even when he knows he's going to get hit.
I agree with you. He's his go-to guy, and the Eagles may have shut down tight ends this year so far, including Julius Thomas. But I agree.
And the results for Witten this week?
I still say good.
There we go. We finally agree.
Yeah. All right, Trent Richardson. He's one of your guys. What do you think about Trent?
I think Trent Richardson is going to be a clock hog this week. I think they're going to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball. As soon as they get ahead in the first, they're going to hog the clock with Trent Richardson. This is going to be his week to learn the playbook that he needs to learn.
So you think that Indianapolis is going to beat Denver?
I do, and that'll be discussed when we talk about another player.
Okay.
In
All right. Trent Richardson's one of those guys that, last year he had a good year. Coming into this year, had high expectations, and I understand changed teams, but, just hasn't really gotten there yet. And he showed some signs of life last night. He's a good runner, but, Donald Brown's playing well. He's only had 2 touchdowns in 6 games. So it's kind of hard for me to say that he's good yet until he proves better.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have a 20-plus point game this week. I just think he's going to get a lot of runs because the offense is going to click so well, and they're going to use that to run out the clock. They're just going to eat up, anywhere from 5 to 8 minutes of every single quarter, and it's going to go to Trent Richardson. And the results for Trent Richardson this week? Good.
I say bad.
All right. Arian Foster is our next mentionable. I think Arian Foster is going to be Kansas City's ticket to 7-0.
You think it's going to be Kansas City's ticket? Yeah, they've been 5th against the run this year. Their defense has been, again, we're going to keep talking about them. They've been incredible this year. So it's hard to say Arian Foster's going to have a good week. He's been rolling the last few weeks. He had 22, 11, and 19 in the last 3 weeks. But facing Kansas City, who's 5th against the run, I think he's got a good year coming, but it's probably not this week.
I think Houston is going to shut down their own wide receiver passing game, and that'll leave the defense free to just shut down Arian Foster. And the predictions on Arian Foster? Bad for this week.
Bad. All right, the next one, mentionable, is usually a player, but I think we got to start talking about the Chiefs' defense.
It's a subject that needs to be addressed.
Yes. They are the 5th overall high scorer in the league as a defense and special teams. That's unheard of.
It says a lot for what Andy Reid has brought to Kansas City. Not a ton has changed there as far as their playing core, what their players are. But, I mean, Philadelphia fans have to be stumped right now and PO'd with what is going on there in Kansas City. And it was their mistake. Andy Reid has always been a good coach for them there. Everyone got fed up with him and Vic, got rid of him, and now Vic is everyone's savior. So I think the Chiefs are phenomenal. I think everything that we said there with Arian Foster is going to get shut down from the defense. Houston's going to shut down their own passing game. It goes to be carried over right into this conversation. The Chiefs are phenomenal. I'm going out there and I'm going to say possibly 3 touchdowns by the defense this week.
Wow. That's a bold prediction in and of itself. But you know what? I don't know if you're quite wrong. So far this year, they've had 10 interceptions and 8 fumble recoveries and 5 touchdowns in 6 games. And they're playing Houston this week, who has thrown an interception for a touchdown in the last 5 games. Gave up a fumble recovery for a touchdown last week, too. So, they're kind of sitting pretty.
I love a good football game, and this one I don't think is going to be. I think the Chiefs move on to 7-0, and that's that.
All right, so what do you votes for Kansas City defense this week against Houston?
Good.
Yeah.
I really don't think this battle for the Chiefs is ever going to switch sides.
No.
Not this season.
Yeah, and just in case Victor Wildcat's wondering, if you're looking to make a trade, I might take the Chiefs defense. So I got Romo on my bench.
Maurice Jones-Drew is our next mentionable. I think everyone's not really been expecting much from Maurice Jones-Drew this year. I think from what the disappointment was last year, from his 2010-2011 season, everyone kind of gave up on him. I think Jacksonville is finally starting to get it together. Yes, they just played Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos and did a good job, but I think the Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning were kind of not expecting much this week. So I don't think they were 100% out there. I don't think they were 100% committed to a tough game like they would be against any other team. And I think that the way they're getting it together right now, Jacksonville, I think we're going to start seeing throughout the rest of the season Maurice Jones-Drew from 2010-2011 season.
So you do think that he has an upside for the rest of this year?
I think he's going to have his ups and downs, but I think for the most part, people are going to look at his season from this point forward and see that it's progressed.
Yes, I think he's going to get a little bit better. He was coming off a really bad year and injuries last year. He's got injuries again this year. He only has 2 games of 11 points or more. The other ones were, all the other 3 games were 4 points and under. So it's tough to say he's good, but I think he does have some upside.
Well, I think we should move into it. What is the predictions for this week for him?
I still say bad.
I think good. Maurice Jones-Drew, you got my tickets.
Okay, the last one is Vernon Davis. Guy's having a big year. He's the 3rd tight end in the league right now with fantasy points. He had 30 points last week against Arizona. Other than Jimmy Graham and Julius Thomas, he's the next guy in line.
I think Colin Kaepernick is finally starting to realize who his best receiver is, and I think he's going to have a phenomenal week this week. And I think we can look for a good bounce back from Colin Kaepernick because he is finding Vernon Davis.
I hope so too, and I think he's going to do good things the rest of this year. All right, so what is the final prediction for him this week?
Prediction, Vernon Davis. Good.
I say good.
Bold predictions.
All right, guys, another new segment for this week. We've got one called Bold Predictions, and this is where I'm going to take a turn to make one bold prediction for this week, and then Trey's going to have his opportunity to make a bold prediction, see if we can get some stuff right.
All right, bold prediction for this week. I think Peyton Manning is going to go back to Indianapolis. I think he's going to walk in there, greet the fans. Peyton Manning really is a routine guy. He has to do everything verbatim in practice, and I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to go in there. He's going to see Reggie Wayne. There's talk now about him being linked somehow with Luck going into Indianapolis, and I just think he's not going to be focused, and I think he's going to have another low-scoring game. Now, is 13 points really low scoring? No. But I think they're going to lose this week. I think this is going to be their first loss of the season, and it's going to be just because of his history with Indianapolis.
All right, my bold prediction for this week is Jay Knights is going to get his very first win against Three Sharks in the Water and give him his first loss. I think with Three Sharks having Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham out, those are two of his top scorers. I know they haven't always done well, but those are the games where he's almost lost. And Jay Knight's team has been playing pretty well here of late, and I think he's going to pull one out this week.
Waiver Wire Report.
All right, this next segment we're calling the Waiver Wire Report. We're going to mention the players that are on the waiver wire that got picked up, or the players that are on the waiver wire that got dropped.
All right, first one this week is Colin Kaepernick, who was touted to be a pretty good quarterback this year, got dropped onto waivers and is still available when Victor's Wildcats dropped him and picked up Alex Smith.
I was surprised with this. I mentioned last week about I was interested in a quarterback, and I changed my mind, and it was Alex Smith. He was going to be the one that I was going to try and pick up, and even if I would have committed to picking him, I wouldn't have gotten him because he picked him up.
Well, Alex Smith scored 7 points last week. He's had a really good year up till this point. He's been averaging right around 20 points a game. Colin Kaepernick had 15, so Colin Kaepernick almost doubled him, or over-doubled him. So this week, maybe not such a great idea if you were looking for a one-week pick-me-up, but in the long run, Alex Smith, I think, has been the more consistent player.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good season for him up there. They've got a good running game. They got a good group of core receivers. I don't think they're throwing a lot right now, but I think that's going to change. If you look at the history of Andy Reid and his types of offense, he likes to have a good running back, which he has, but he also likes to air the ball out a bit, and they're not doing much of that so far this year. All right, our next on the waiver wire report is Willis McGahee for David Wilson. David Wilson got dropped and picked up McGahee. I don't know how McGahee's going to do there in Cleveland. They rolling with Trent Richardson. He was a workhorse there. He was a every down running back, and I don't think McGahee is at that point in his career. I think he's too old, and I think he's too nimble.
Well, the whole reason that Cleveland picked him up when he was a free agent was because he fits Norv Turner's style of offense. Well, I had picked up David Wilson in the draft originally. I dropped him after about week 3 or 4 because he was having a horrible year. And things were starting to turn around for him. I picked him up for 1 week because I needed to fill in a hole for a bye week. But I think in the long run, I trust Willis McGahee more, especially with Wilson being hurt now. I'm just waiting to see what happens with Willis McGahee. I have the bench room, so keep him around and see what happens.
I say 2 more weeks, and then he's done for the season and career.
Wow. Okay. All right, the next waiver wire report is the Rams defense. I dropped them last week because they were facing Houston, who I thought was going to turn around and have a good week. The Rams scored 25 points with their defense and special teams.
Now, when did you pick up the Rams?
I picked them up that week. I like to go from week to week and see who's playing who, and if somebody's playing Jacksonville or somebody. I picked up New Orleans when I dropped the Rams. They were playing the Patriots, who have only scored 19 points a game this year.
Yeah.
And haven't really shown up too much on offense. They have a good record as a team, but haven't put up big offensive numbers. And that's kind of what I look for in a defense. Unfortunately, the Patriots showed up this week and New Orleans only scored 5 points. But you win some, you lose some.
And I think dropping the Rams was a bad idea for that week. I'll agree with you. I would have saw the Houston game coming up. And like we mentioned with the Chiefs, Houston is beating themselves. The only thing you have to worry about is how good Arian Foster is going to run. And I really wouldn't have been too concerned about it. I think the Rams have a good defense. All right, next on the waiver wire report, we're talking about Janikowski and him being dropped for Garrett Hartley. This is the second week in a row that we've had to talk about Janikowski.
Right.
I don't know exactly what John's dealing are with him, but I understand he's on a bye week. But do you really want to drop him? I think right now, yeah, he's not doing too well, but I think his season's only going to progress from here. Garrett Hartley, he's not a bad kicker. I mean, right now he has some good games. There's better kickers out there, I feel. But he's just had 3 games really well. Actually, in week 5, he had 16 points, and that's what really topped him into the position that he is for kickers. And right now his position is 3rd to Janikowski's 28th, which, like I said, it doesn't look good, but I think there's going to be – I'm the same with kickers as you are with defenses, and I am with defenses. I move them around week to week, except for the fact that now I got Gostkowski. I kind of got to keep him. But I don't know if that's what John's doing, moving back and forth to a kicker week to week, but I don't know where he's going to go since both these guys are on bye week this week.
Well, I think you have to give him a little bit of credit for some foresight. He dropped Janikowski, who scored 0 points this week. Was 0 for 1 in field goals and 1 extra point. And then Garrett Hartley scored 9. So if you look at it on this week, it was a good move. I have to see how it plays out from here. All right, we're going to talk about the standings, and we finally figured out how the playoff seedings are figured out. With me beating you last week, that makes my record better, but you are still listed as the 2nd seed in the playoffs. So the division winners will be the top 2 seeds in the playoffs, and then the wild cards would be figured out for best record on there.
Yeah, so potentially there could be only one team from the East division, and the other 3 teams could be from the West. If things keep going the way they are, that could very well be a possibility. All right, so the standings as we stand right now is 3 Sharks, 6-0, Master Disaster 3-3, Steelers Wheels 4-2, Flea Flickers 3-3, Lucci's Winners 3-2-1, Victor's Wildcats 2-7, and J Knights 0-5-1.
That's right. He's working his way up. He's on the way up.
We've got the preview, yeah?
All right, wrapping up the show here, guys. Have the Week 7 preview. We got 3 Sharks in the water going up against J Knights. The man with no losses against the man with no wins.
Yeah, I think this is the perfect week for this matchup. 3 Sharks has Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham both on a bye week.
Yeah, and as I mentioned in my bold predictions, I think J Knights is going to pull this one out.
All right, the next matchup is Master Disasters versus Lucci's Winners. Again, this is our only matchup. 3 years in a row, league commissioners play each other 1 time in a season. And it pisses me off so bad. This is the one person that I want to beat every time, and I only get to beat him 1 time. So we'll see what happens, John. You got to pick up a new kicker because both your kickers that you had are on bye week this week.
That's right. And yeah, this will be an interesting one. You guys have pretty much the same record. Of course, the commissioner thing. And you both have New York Giants wide receivers. So there's some kind of interesting matchups there.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but I think I'll pull out the W.
He's projected to win right now.
And he has a guy on bye.
Yeah.
Says a lot.
Doesn't even have his kicker in there yet. Yeah. All right, this week we've got Steelers Wheel going up against Victor's Wildcats, the league champion. I gotta get a new defense in there, but it's pretty tight. They're calling a close game with the predictions.
Yeah, I'm, again, as I said earlier in the video, I'm voting for Victor's Wildcats to lose. But, with you so close on my heels, I think I'm going to vote for a tie again. Let's get 2 ties back-to-back weeks.
Wow.
With never having a tie before in 3 years.
Hey, never know what can happen.
All right, the next game we're going to talk about is Supermom and Flea Flickers. I think this one's going to be decided by the quarterbacks this week. They're pushing each other right now, but the projection is in Supermom's favor. But I like this matchup. I want to see the women cat fight it out.
I agree. We got the battle of the broads here. Like you said, they're very evenly matched. I think it might come down to the defenses. Part of the predictions they're showing the Bears defense to score 1 point against Washington. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think the Bears might fare a little bit better than that, but we'll see. All right, thank you very much for watching, guys. We'll be back next week with the Week 7 review. Until then, I'm Rob Mattern with Steelers Wheel.
And I'm Trey Seitz with Master Disaster.
Have a great week.
See y'all.
All right, this week we got Steelers Wheel against Victor's Wildcats, the league champion. I don't know. So far, he's been more like Victor's mildly aggressive kittens. No, good.
Okay, that one was really good. I think everything turned out good. I don't know what I was talking about there, so I didn't know how to end that.
That's awesome. Hold on, my wife needs a diaper quick.